Is he deleting our veterans from our history? They erased Vimy Ridge to put in an image of a squirrel eating a nut. They erased Terry Fox, a guy who ran halfway across the country to fight cancer, to put in a man raking leaves.
While the Conservatives are trying to pick fights here in the House, we're focused on delivering for Canadians.
A political fight over passports. The government unveiled new designs for passports, and you just heard there, not everyone is a fan. The redesigned ones include imagery the government says reflects diversity and Canadian landscapes. Think pictures of kids and animals, more generic in nature. The issue that those images have displaced other ones of Terry Fox, the Famous Five, and the Vimy Memorial. Let's bring in the front bench panel to unpack some of that pushback. With me tonight, Carleen Varayan is former Chief of Staff to Jim Carr. She's an Associate Vice President with Summa Strategies. Former Alberta MLA and Cabinet Minister Gary Marr is here. He's the President and CEO of the Canada West Foundation. Former Communications Director to Jagmeet Singh, Melanie Richer, is with us. She now works at Earnscliffe Strategies, and CTV National News' Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier is right next to me. Hi, everybody. Good to see you tonight. Happy Wednesday. Melanie, I'll start with you. I hear lots of sort of people, oh my goodness, what a scandal to have here in Canada. Very different than the words I was reading a few minutes ago about Donald Trump. Could the reaction to this have been predicted?
I mean, it should have been. Today should have been a good news story for the Liberals, and instead, this is the news story. I think it shows more of their inability to see stuff coming and get ahead of it. Now, I will say the noise that we're kind of hearing about this, there are some legitimate concerns being raised around, our veterans and Terry Fox and whatnot. And the point of, without hearing the rationale, I think is important. Like, let's hear the government, let's hear why this happened. But if I'm a regular person at home watching, what I saw in question period today, all I can think of is, like, surely there are things that are more important to me than this right now. And, my mortgage is likely to go up in a few weeks because interest rates might come up again. So it would have been maybe nice to focus on something differently. But I do think this is a picture of the government's inability to see stuff coming and get ahead of it before it happens, is more of what we saw today.
Yeah, I sort of think, Gary, two things can be true. There are more important things in the world, much of which I will say after that was discussed in the House of Commons. I know we like to focus a lot on the negative, and it is kind of odd that this is a big topic, but there was a lot of other stuff on the table there. I think you can care about that, and I would also bet that many Canadians tonight, as they sit down to eat dinner, will have their own little debate about whether this was the right thing for the government to do.
Well, I want to say that there's been a history of passports that goes back about 2,500 years. Obviously, the paper documents that were issued 2,500 years ago to give safe passage to travelers across land are very different from today. The modern-day passport has two functions. One is a security issue, and that is to distill the identity of the holder of the passport and the country that issues the passport. On the security issue, I don't think anybody complains about the new security measures that are contained in the new passports. I think those are a good thing. But it is, as Melanie said, fairly predictable that when you change the symbolism that's contained in the passport, that is going to, raise some hackles. And here, pity the poor passport, because 98% of the time it sits up locked in a drawer somewhere. Nobody actually looks at it except for some guy with, CBSA when you're coming back into the country and the passport says, this is who I say I am. But it does strike me that a passport should be a document that actually contains things that we should be proud of as Canadians. You look at passports around the world, as an example. When you shine a UV light on a Norwegian passport, it shows the northern lights. I think that's pretty cool. If you look in a U.S. passport, it's got, magnificent images of Mount Rushmore. If you look at passports in other parts of the world, they contain inspirational quotes from people. And I think that, the passport issue, Canadian Stamps, Canada Post, to its credit, I think does a pretty good job of identifying historical events, significant Canadians. It has artwork. It has, historical characters. And it seems to me that if you were to design a passport, maybe you should ask 13 provinces and territories. Name a geographic feature that you would want to put on one of the pages of our passports. And then you have 13 great pieces of Canadian art, you know, maybe from something from the Group of Seven, maybe Tom Thompson. And then you could have 13 inspirational quotes from Canadians on 13 pages. And then maybe lastly, you have, you know, 13 inventions or significant contributions that Canadians have made that benefit the whole world. And surely a passport can be a small reminder of the reasons why we should be proud to be Canadians.
I think, if I'm jumping off that, Carleen, that there might have been a way for the government to navigate that, to want to address the inclusivity aspect of things, but also recognize and sort of not erase some of the stuff from our history. At the same time, I think this also, from a political perspective, is red meat for Conservatives, right? Insofar as this is the big thing that they're on, right? Like anti-woke, don't try to erase this stuff. Like, you heard the way that it was framed by Pierre Poilievre, and it doesn't come as a shock to me that he would do it that way.
Well, first of all, I just want to say I think we should let Gary design our passports.
I was going to say
yes.
Yeah. He knows more about passports than anyone I've ever met. Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I mean, one thing I would love to know is how many people who are so outraged today about the new images could have even told you yesterday, named even one or two of the images on the current passport. This is so clearly a manufactured scandal. And as I was saying earlier to someone, you know, obviously we've solved all of the big problems in the country if this is what we're focused on today. But since we're talking about it, let's talk about why the changes had to be so substantial. This is something that it sounds like security officials had briefed to government needed to happen, and that does need to happen from time to time as a security measure to help with both counterfeit passports as well as just ones that are being sold on the black market, to make it more difficult for those to be replicated. And as we all know, the Canadian passport is one that is among the most valuable on the black market. So there's legitimate security reasons for an overhaul here. And in terms of political red meat, I'm still skeptical that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are going to find a winner here. I think it's just a little bit too out there at a time when we have a real affordability crisis, to Melanie's point earlier, that we have real geopolitical issues going on. I'm not sure this one's going to stick.
I don't think it'll necessarily stick, and I understand that point, Joyce, but I also think there was not a more discussed topic around the water cooler, even in this office, where we're paying close attention to every policy decision that the government is making. And like I said, my guess is also that there will be some kind of debate or conversation had around the dinner table today. And I am curious as to why the government couldn't have seen what that reaction would be.
Because it's true, I don't know how many people knew exactly what images were on their passport before today, but now they're going to go look. And I'm sorry, but squirrels are rats with good PR, right? With fur coats. They're not exactly, they're rodents, right? I mean, why would you want to put a rodent in your passport? And, you know, raking leaves? Is that fun? Is that only a Canadian thing? So it seems to me that what is up with that? You know, to Gary's point, there is zero symbolism to any of these images where there were before, right? Vimy Ridge is a great symbol. Terry
and the
Fox,
Legion being upset is not a great thing either,
no, it
right?
isn't.
Yeah.
And it is a symbol. Terry Fox, I remember Terry Fox. I remember his run across Canada, and I think a lot of Canadians do as well. So, you know, was there a scandal there before that they had to cover that we didn't know about? Or did somebody say, hey, why don't we just put a whole bunch of really lame things in a Canadian passport? This lame. It is lame, let's face it. Gary's totally right. It's not inspirational. Look, my dogs love to chase squirrels, but, you
really
know.
like the squirrel thing. I once interviewed someone a few weeks ago
I'm sorry,
who took a squirrel in as a pet. I'm just going to say that right now.
About this because I don't think there's anything particularly